Your stories don't define you. How you tell them will. Hi, I'm Sarah Elkins, your host and chief story maker of Elkins Consulting. We share stories for many reasons, to persuade, to entertain, to connect. What we sometimes forget is the impact of the stories we tell ourselves. Whether you're sharing personal stories or business stories, how you share them makes a difference in how you remember them and in how you're perceived by the people you're interacting with. When you figure out which stories to share, difficult bosses and coworkers, successes, failures, the next step is to develop how you share them. Have you figured out your patterns, your roles in those successes, the discomfort, and your challenges? In this series, you'll hear stories that will resonate with you. You'll nod your head in understanding, and then we'll dig into the lessons from each of those. How many times have you been sharing a story only to be interrupted by a person eager to share his own? When I'm working with clients on communication skills, I remind them to listen for understanding, not to respond. But during this podcast, I'm asking you to listen and consider your own related stories, to listen and consider which stories in your life might have impacted you in a similar way. Brian Schulman, welcome to Your Stories Don't Define You, but How You Tell Them Will. And I am so glad to have you on this podcast today. I had to reach out. It's hard to believe we've never actually talked on the phone because we've been connected on LinkedIn for a long time. So welcome. And my first question is always, tell us something about yourself that most people don't know. And I ask you this because I like our audience to feel a different kind of connection with you before we start talking about our personal stories.
Yeah, definitely. And it's awesome to be here with you. And I know it's crazy that we actually hadn't had a chance to speak yet, but it's so good to be here with you. So something about me that most people don't know. Oh my gosh. I can pretty much play any instrument with the exception of the winds by ear. Like
Really?
I used to read music.
The trumpet?
Yeah. No, yeah, but not the winds. Like I can't. My son plays trumpet.
Right,
My son
right.
is a jazz musician. He plays trumpet. However, I never learned how to play the winds. My grandfather was a jazz musician too, who played the winds, but it wasn't my thing.
Oh,
so,
except the wind instruments.
Except,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
except
Okay.
the wind instruments.
Okay.
So yeah, I can pretty much pick up any instrument and sit in with anybody and jam. It'll take me a little bit just to get into a groove, but yeah, I play all by ear. I learned how to read when I was younger because I had to for school, but it was in one ear out the other. So
What was your first instrument?
Piano was my first instrument.
Okay, so that probably explains a little bit about why you can pick up other instruments.
Yeah, I think so. And it was a love of mine for many different reasons growing up, which I'm sure we'll dig into a little bit. But yeah, so there's your there's your off the head one thing that many people may not know.
That's terrific. I had no idea. I didn't know. And I've known you on LinkedIn for a long time. So that's awesome. And of course, you know that music speaks to me because I'm a musician as well, but I cannot pick up any instrument. As a matter of fact, I like to tell people that I am the least coordinated musician you'll probably ever meet. And sometimes I can play the tambourine and sing at the same time, which is, I've gotten better over the last 10, 12 years that I've been performing. So that's terrific. I love that. And at some point we are going to have to jam.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To do something.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's
awesome.
I'd love to. That's terrific. Well, that's perfect. That's a perfect segue into the whole reason I wanted to record a podcast with you is because there are a few things about you that I do know. And the music thing just totally makes sense. It just fits right into what I know about you. And the whole idea of voice your vibe, which you probably don't know this, but the tagline on the No Longer Virtual Gifts last year in Denver was, I decide my vibe. And
I love that.
Zach Messler, he says that a lot now. He'll quote it from the cups that I gave as gifts to facilitators last year. So that speaks to me. And I think there's a lot of music in that. Voice your vibe. So I just wanted to ask you a few questions particularly about when this happened, that you realized that voice your vibe was a thing. I mean, what specific incident happened?
Yeah, it's a really good question, Sarah. And it actually really goes back all the way to the beginning for me, like coming into this world, because I didn't, I didn't have a voice when I came into this world per se. I was a pound and a half preemie born in the 70s that wasn't supposed to live. So I was a miracle baby in itself. And, it add another layer onto that. And then I was diagnosed preteen with a neurological disorder called Tourette syndrome, which are uncontrollable tics and twitches. And usually you're not aware that you're doing them either.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I didn't feel like I really had a voice. And I certainly, over time tried to kind of find my tribes, and there's different people that come in and out of our lives. It's a natural evolution in general, and then people that stick around forever, right? But I don't know. Music, we talk about music. It was one of those things for me that took me to a place that was outside of my own, if it makes any sense. I mean, as a musician,
Totally.
you get it. You get lost in your music. You get lost in that vibe. And it was one of those things for me. Specifically, I'd sit in the dark playing for hours as a kid, playing piano. And I was outside of my twitchy, ticky self. And just so you understand, I mean, I would somersault from room to room, jump up and down, make tons of facial expressions, lots of different noises, these intense neck twitches, and a lot of those things could commingle at times. So I was already weird per se, in my mind, and different, always the small kid. So again, I didn't really feel like, I had a voice, and things shifted over time. There's a lot to this story. I'm trying to kind of slow it down for you, but it all matters because it all got me to where I am and how voice survive kind of happens. So I slowly kind of started to come out of my shell, and I grew up Jewish, and I got bar mitzvahed. And right before my bar mitzvah, I had been taking this medication for a number of years, and it was to help calm the Tourette's, because you can't cure it. It's not fixable. It's a brain thing. You just but the side effects were horrible, and I had told my mom right before my bar mitzvah that I don't want to take these drugs anymore. It totally dulls me, and I want to be me. I'll deal with the Tourette's. I just want to be able to be me. And so I never took the medication again. And as I kind of,
what did she say when you said that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So she said, are you sure that you don't want to take the medicine anymore? Because there were going to be a lot of people at this ceremony, right?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently what I said to her was, they all know who I am. They're all here for me. I don't need to take it. It's okay.
Let's show them me. Wow.
Yeah.
And your mom, from what I've heard, is a supportive person that said, okay.
Oh, 100%. My mom is my rock. She's my genuine hero. She is why I am the man I am today. Like she was there every step of the way with me. And, being a parent, by the way, of two teenagers, one that's about to graduate from high school, I can't even begin to fathom what she went through as a parent, coming with a new baby, single child, into the world that you don't know if they're going to live, 3 months premature, and the size of your hand, right. Breathing, not breathing, all that. And then to deal with all of this, because it took forever for us to finally find a doctor to tell us what this was, because back in the 80s, nobody knew. It wasn't a thing. All doctors just said, no, it's fine, we're out of it.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. Right. And then we wound up finally finding a specialist at UCLA that told us what this thing was. But my mom, she was always there, and she was always supportive. I'd come home bawling from school because I would get picked on and bullied. And I said to her, why does everybody keep picking on me, and why does everyone make fun of me? And she took me into the bathroom, and I was young. She took me into the bathroom, and she had this big mirror, and we sat down, and she said, I want you to see something. And she did every tick and twitch that I was doing at that time. And she said, all right, I want you to just let it rip. Whatever you've got in you, just let it all out. Because I would kind of try and compact this.
Right.
And it would only make it worse. Because it would be like a volcano building up type scenario.
Well, you're stressing out your body and.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I let it all out. And this is my mom. After I did, she'd put on some music and we'd start dancing together. so these are the kind of things that would happen, right? And so anyway, mom was is and always has been very, very supportive, and has always been my rock, and has always told me, hey, you're you, be you, love you, and I love you, and and people will love you, and so she certainly put me into a lot of different activities growing up. She wanted me to try and find my voice in different ways and find my tribe. And music was one of those things that has always stuck with me. Comedy was another one. I figured since I was always weird, I might as well own it. And so
Andy Vargo would love to hear that. Own your awkward. I love that.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I got into doing impressions at a really young age, and it just kind of stuck with me. That's another thing a lot of people don't know, is that I do a lot of different impressions. I fell in love with a lot of comedians growing up, and most of them were actually physical comedians. Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy, Jim Carrey at that time, who was very young. Steve Martin. Yeah, I mean, got literally so many that I can't rattle off the top of my head and I think I not only did they make me laugh, but I think I related to them in different ways, because again, they were being weird themselves. And weird. They were weird. They were hilarious. Weird, right? Wonderful, exciting, intelligent. There's a great acronym, and I always forget a couple of the letters in it, but I always felt weird, and I didn't want to be weird, Sarah. I just wanted to be normal, right? Normal in the world of everybody else. And my mom taught me how to dance at a really young age. Dancing is another thing that I just love. And she always said, I'm going to teach you how to dance because all the girls are going to love you for it, and you're going to have a good time. And I said, okay. And she was right. I mean, I did. I had such a great time. And I happen to have a degree in psychology, which I got because I truly wanted to better understand what was going on with me, and just so many other things about just us humans in general. I think because of what I had been through and growing up and such. And I thought about it and was like, wow, dancing, when you think about all of us when we're out there dancing, we're all acting weird, making faces, making noises, moving our bodies in ways we usually wouldn't. And I think I probably felt normal in a sea of people who felt weird. So this whole like dancing thing, right? It was like one of those things. It was another component. It's dancing, music, and I don't know why there's another one and I can't think of what it is, but Comedy, thank you. Dancing, music, and comedy, right? And all of them have kind of stuck with me through the years. So I get into high school and kind of, oh, your baby. I get into high school.
Just joined me.
I get into high school and I start to kind of come out of my shell a bit. And I dealt with a lot of adversity, a lot of bullying growing up, a lot of trying to find myself. I had a lot of good in my life, don't get me wrong, but one negative can overshadow 1,000 positives. And I never ever wanted anyone around me to feel the way I did. I didn't want anyone to feel like they were in dark moments like I did when they were with me. I wanted them to feel good. I wanted them to feel positive. I wanted to make them smile. And so I would start to bring people together. And my house growing up became the house that everyone came and hung out at. And it was fun. And I loved knowing that I was able to help make people feel good. And it kind of took me forward where I started to become much more social. I was not the social butterfly I am today that I was when I was growing up. It took me some time to kind of come out of that and get comfortable being uncomfortable, which I've spent my whole life doing. And so I get into college and it kind of just broke the shackles off. And I found my love for the startup world, which I've lived in for the last 20 years and building and growing companies. And I founded my fraternity amongst a number of other incredible men. And really got involved in, I got involved in the community in a way I'd never done before. I got involved in so many different groups and loved bringing people together and just helping people. I always loved to help people. And I think it's because, again, from what I went through growing up, I wanted to give the opposite, and it kind of takes us to LinkedIn, which I know we both have a love for, which is I found 15 years ago. I've been on LinkedIn every day for the last 15 years. And LinkedIn is 16 years old. And when I joined, there were about 1 million people on the platform. And I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew it wasn't going to disappear. It wasn't going to be something that, another competitor came along, like what happened with MySpace and Facebook, and it just kind of went big and then boom, it disappeared because everybody was going, no, this Facebook thing is the way to go. Well, LinkedIn happened and I knew it was going to be the business social networking platform. I didn't know how or what or why. I just had this feeling about it. And I felt like it was a place that I needed to invest my time more so than anywhere else. It was just this, I don't know, maybe the universe was talking to me. But so I wanted to be able to have it be a place where I was able to share me and me in a way that I had done before, in making people feel good, in sharing positivity and sharing light and bringing people together. Again, there wasn't really a way for me to do that in the beginning. So it was all just more about connecting with people, because that's what you could do. Because back then you could hit the connect button and it was digital resume and you could search for jobs, basically. That's what it was.
Right.
And then once it became an engagement platform, it changed everything slowly but surely. And I had been part of all the betas that had happened with the platform. And I started to do that. I started to share that kind of light and positivity. And it's funny because people ask me all the time, like, how are you so positive all the time? And the reality is I go through the same crap everybody else does. We all have down days, we all have down moments, like stuff happens to us, but it's how you react to that. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. So coming from where I have, fighting for every breath to make it into this world, being this miracle baby, dealing with this neurological disorder and being the weird kid, I wanted to give out the opposite of the negative I had received. And I wanted to, I don't know, I guess knowing that for me, every breath is a gift, I knew that no matter what I was going through or had been through or would go through, that I could get through everything, and that every failure that I've had, and so many more failures and successes, that I would learn every step of the way, and I'd keep getting up and I'd keep dusting myself off and I'd just keep going. And coming to LinkedIn to give out this good, like my why is to inspire one person a day. If I could inspire one person a day to chase their dreams, to get up after they've fallen 50 times and do it again, to knowing that is succeeding, whether you actually get to where you want to go or not, the succeeding is actually your keep going, or inspire someone to inspire someone else, or make somebody feel good about themselves when they don't, or inspire someone to just be themselves. Any one of those things for one person a day, I've done my part to make the world a better place. And I came to LinkedIn with a purpose to do that, because we all have a voice. And this is the funny part about it, is that a voice and a story that matters. LinkedIn video happened just about 1.5 years ago in beta. And I remember when it launched, I had access to it in that June when it happened, and I saw it pop up on my phone, and I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to get in front of the camera.
I had the same thought.
Yeah, no, and I had never done any of that before. Of course, videos of my kids and all that. And growing up, as I mentioned, my mom tried to get me involved in a lot of different things. I grew up in Los Angeles. I did do some modeling. I did do a little bit of TV stuff. I did do some runway stuff. I don't talk about these things, but and I didn't have control over them, right? I was put in these scenarios. This with video was me holding my phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And hitting the record button and staring at myself or staring at a dot and saying whatever I'm saying, and then creating some content to go with it and posting it. I had never done anything like that before. And I didn't even know there were apps that existed to be able to do this stuff. So I was really, really uncomfortable. I sat on it for 4 months. I'm like, there's no way. What if my Tourette's come out? What kind of video is that going to be, right? And remember, in my mind, I'm still weird.
Right.
Okay. Now, I will tell you, through everything that happened between that point and previous from a career perspective, I never talked about my Tourette's, never talked about being a preemie. One time I did when I was going for a job that I had no experience in yet, and figured, well, I don't have any legs to stand on in terms of my career. I'll just talk about my story because it's a story of resilience and tenacity and grit, and I can learn and I can do. Just give me a shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can get through anything and I can succeed. And I didn't get that job, by the way. I met with like 8 hiring managers, and every one of them, Sarah, was like, okay, that's great, but why should we hire you?
Oh.
And I felt so defeated walking out of there. This was during the dot boom era and of the internet days, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk about that anymore. And I didn't. I literally didn't. I brought it up at one moment, and then I'm like, this is,
That was a mistake. Yeah.
That was a mistake, right? That's what I said to myself, right? Is I'm like, that was a mistake for me to talk about that. And so I never did. And I did, it was just, I just dealt with what was going on, and I didn't talk about it because I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to succeed on my own merit as a human being. And I felt like, being different, I didn't want that to set me apart. I didn't want it to make me different. I just wanted to do the job and succeed at the job as a normal person, if you will.
So I have to interrupt you for a second, because there are 3 things that just have popped into my head over the last couple minutes as you were speaking. And one is, I think most of us think we're weird and different. And as somebody who is different, as somebody who was always the smallest person in the room, or I was as a kid, and I still can't even walk into my kid's high school without feeling like I'm a 4th grader, because I'm as tall as the 4th graders now. But I can tell you that I always felt like an outsider. And most people that I've talked to in the last 20 years have said they felt the same way in high school. There were a couple, and I can tell you one in particular that was like, oh, those are the glory days. I really miss those days. One person that has ever said that. The rest of them have said, God, I felt so awkward in high school. I always felt like I didn't quite fit in. I always felt like I had to try too hard. So I think one of the things that is really important for the listeners here and for your connections to remember is that we all feel that way. So if you aren't confident in who you are because you think you're a weirdo, you think you don't fit in, know that 90% of the people around you feel the exact same way. So let that go and just be who you are.
Absolutely.
And then the second thing that popped into my head is that we forget sometimes that that our stories aren't going to define us. So you are the second person today that I've heard say something like, I didn't want that to be what made me different, or, I wanted to succeed regardless of what happened in my life or whatever. one of my friends said she didn't want to share that she had MS because she didn't want the MS to define her. And I just keep coming back to people sharing these stories and the fact that it's not that that's defining you, it's how you're sharing it.
Yeah. Well, and if you're sharing it,
right.
And it kind of takes us to where we are, which is I finally took the leap and jumped in after a nudge from a friend of mine, Goldie, who was making videos at that time on LinkedIn. And, you know, I figured, okay, look, I've spent my whole life getting comfortable being uncomfortable in business and life, etc. It's one more thing. I got to do this. I love being a part of groundbreaking scenarios, things that are new, industries that are new, and being a part of growing those. This is one more thing. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the end result's going to be, but I've got to do this. And so I had been inspired by a number of creators that when this all started, by a campaign that was called Let's Get Honest. And at that time, it broke the shackles off LinkedIn. LinkedIn was a box, it was a shirt and tie, and you were conforming and fitting in it. And when that happened, it changed everything on LinkedIn. It was the first time I had seen something like that happen at that time, 14 years I'd been on the platform. And people were sharing their stories. They were sharing their fears and failures. They were talking about MS. They were talking about speech impediments, anxiety, rape. I mean, my God, the stories that were being told, I was blown away by the heart that was being shared. And I was inspired to share my story. I can count on my hand the number of times I've talked about it with people individually, but I had never talked about it to the world, especially in a capacity like that at a time where there were about 500 million people on the platform. And so my first video on LinkedIn was that. It was my life story, a number of components which I've shared with you. And while I was scared to death, extremely uncomfortable, I knew that I needed to do that. And the amount of love and support and encouragement that came from that was truly incredible, truly incredible. And it's something that you had never seen before on this platform. And it really inspired me in ways that I never thought would happen before, because being someone who wants to provide love, encouragement, and support and light and positivity, I wanted to support anyone and everyone that was making videos because I knew how scary that was. And again, it took me so long. I remember reaching out to Goldie when I got started and saying, okay, you know, I did my first 5 videos. This is so awkward and uncomfortable. When am I going to feel comfortable? You know, and her words were so amazing because she's like, you're going to start to feel a little bit less uncomfortable around your 20th video. And I'm like, I got to make 20 videos to feel a little bit less uncomfortable. Are you kidding me right now? And then I'm like, the other side of me said, okay, well, I got to make 20 videos. So I had a goal. At least I knew where I needed to go. And I remember that video like it was yesterday. I was at a parade that my son and his jazz band mates at school were performing in, and I was behind the scenes. And I remember I was up my camera, up my phone, and I remember thanking a number of supporters in my life at that time, Goldie and Mike Morgan and Fiona Young and Fahad and a number of other people, and saying, okay, you were right. Like I get it. I feel a little bit less uncomfortable, and every day was day one for me. Like I never made a video unless I was inspired by something or someone. Otherwise, it wasn't genuine, authentic in me. Right. And it wasn't going to be about business for me because that wasn't what this was about for me. It was doing something brand new and getting comfortable being comfortable. And I had to figure out what my thing was. And I realized, well, my thing is just me. I just need to do me, just be me. And it was amazing, Sarah, because by sharing my story, I realized that I was inspiring people. I was inspiring people in so many different ways because, and I never thought that I had a story or a voice that mattered, because in my mind, I was just living life. All the things that happened to me, I didn't know any better. I just got up and kept going. But I realized that my story had the ability to inspire people. And I kept getting invited to all these podcasts and global radio shows and LinkedIn shows and whatever, because everybody wanted to hear this story. And I kept saying to myself, well, I keep sharing the same story. Like, doesn't that get old? And they're like, well, no, it's like a movie premiere. You know, not everybody goes to the same premiere, the same movie at the same time. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense to me. Okay. So I kept sharing my story. And what I realized was I kept getting on video, and I'd keep, you know, my thing is bringing people together. I love bringing people together. And I love making people feel good. And so I'd love collaborating with people. And I was one of the first collaborators on the platform when it came to video. And we have such a good time together, and such amazing things that happen, and many different voices coming together as one. Like just like music, it's an amazing thing. So now fast forward, I came to a point where after 20 years of doing what I've done, and I've been in sales my whole career in many different fashions, starting in retail, and then got into technology in college because it made me more money, and I had to support my way in college and take care of life. And it just kind of stuck. And I loved helping people so much. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I can help people. I can use my voice to help people and solve a problem, and I can make great money doing it. Okay, that's awesome. So I just kept doing that. Well, 20 years later, after helping build and grow companies and being a part of some amazing experiences, I came to an inflection point where I said, wow, I had been helping people on LinkedIn for many, many years. So I've used my voice to help people in so many different ways. I'm on a number of boards. I advise startups and founders. I do speaking engagements throughout the year, and I mentor, which is incredible. To be able to see something in someone else that they don't see in themselves, and when they do, that moment is just it's the most amazing thing ever. And we know none of us get to where we are without someone sending the ladder down. Like, we all get help to get to where we are. So having been on this platform for so long, I got so tired of seeing people shoot themselves in the foot. Everybody hitting the connect button. I'm like, that's not how you build a relationship. I'd like to add you to my network. And then they start selling you. And I'm like, no, you don't, this is not how you build a relationship. And I would get people reaching out, and I'm just like, we'd get on the phone and have conversations. And I'm like, look, and I would connect with a lot of people within the world that I had lived in: digital marketing, e-commerce, retail, web analytics, and many Fortune executives. And I'd say, I'd see how they were kind of showing up on the platform, and I'd start helping them and teaching them and helping them understand that building relationships in person is no different than online, is no different than in person. It's just a different mechanism, and you're just not used to understanding how to do that. So I wouldn't walk up to you in a room, Sarah, and hand you a contract and go, here, sign this contract. You'd be like, I'm sorry, who are you? You're like, hi, I'm Sarah. Hi, I'm Brian. Let's have a conversation, right?
Yep.
Same kind of thing.
I've had that discussion so many times, and the way that I describe it is, you're walking down the street and some guy runs up to you, slaps his business card in your hand, and runs away.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
Card, and you immediately either throw it in the trash or you start laughing, and then you throw it in the trash. You're like,
that's right.
I have no idea.
Right.
And nobody's going to say, oh my gosh, that's exactly the service I've been looking for. I'm going to call this guy. No one's going to do that.
No, because it's all about people. People do business with people they like, know, and trust. It's about building relationships. Like, it's the foundation of everything.
Exactly.
And so anyway, so I just start helping people, because again, it was just like eating me up. I'm like, just the way they were showing up or how they were connecting and all these things.
You're
and I'm
damaging
like,
your brand.
Well, yes, it's true. Seriously,
I know. I go through the same thing.
So fast. So I'd be helping people, and it was, I felt good. And everybody would always ask me at the end of these conversations, like, wow, this is amazing. Like, how can I help you? And I'm like, there's only two things you can do to help me. You can do what I have taught you, and you will succeed, because I fell on my sword so many times over the years, figuring out what works and what doesn't, and realizing that it's just about being human. And if you do that, and be consistent, be human, be consistent, and all of these things. And I said, the other thing you can do, teach someone else how to do this. Send the ladder down, because I've helped you, go help somebody else. That's all I wanted. And so a friend of mine was like, look, you love this stuff so much. You love helping people find their own voices and and attract their tribes and just be them. Like, why are you not doing this for a living? And I had said, well, that wasn't what it was about for me. I just wanted to help more people. I figured the more people I can help, it's a ripple effect. If I help one people, they help another, and we can help stop this epidemic of people that just don't understand how to connect with people. And so, but it got me, they got me thinking, and they're like, but you could do what you love and make money doing what you love. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, and I finally got to a point where I said, yeah, you're right. You're right. So this is a very long answer to a very short question. When you asked me, how did Voice Your Vibe kind of come to be? It started from the beginning, and all of the stuff that we talked through, and getting on to doing something like video that I never thought I would do in my life, finding a voice I never knew I had that would inspire people in ways I never possibly could have imagined, that presented opportunities to me that I never thought would be possible. All of these things I told you that I've been a part of all came from showing up on the platform. They organically just happened. Mm-hmm. And I realized, you know what, my story, and I wrote about this story. I wrote an article on LinkedIn about it and chronologed my journey, because I just felt I needed to share this for me. Because look, everything that I've done when it came to video, it was all for me. It was all, I can do this. I need to do this. I can get through this, and I have support around me, and maybe I can.
Yourself.
It was, and
to learn something,
and to know that I'm able to potentially help somebody in some way, or inspire somebody in some way. And if I can do that, it's amazing. Well, and then I started to be able to, I realized that I had a voice and a story that mattered, that I was weird, and own that weird, and that weird is a good thing, and that we're all weird. And again, the acronym, I can't remember all the letters of it, but something again along the lines of what I described earlier. I'll find it and send it to you. I actually have a video about it that I'll wind up posting. And so I started a company, and Voice Your Vibe came to be. And the funniest part about it is that I had a friend of mine who's like, oh my God, you're going to start a company? I'm like, yeah. She's like, can you come fly to Dallas? I want to throw you a launch party. I'm sorry, what? You want to throw me a party for the company that I'm just starting? She's like, yeah. I'm like, the only parties I've ever had was my mom throwing me birthday parties as a kid. I'm like, that's crazy to even kind of comprehend. And she's like, can you get to Dallas? And I said, yeah. I said, I'm not ready. She's like, nobody's ever ready. I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm really not ready. She's like, it's okay. come fly to Dallas. And I did. And it was the most incredible experience that I will never forget. And this was a friend of mine on LinkedIn. This was Lila Smith, a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine on LinkedIn, who I had known for like a year on the platform, and we had never met in person. And this is the wonderful thing about this video connection specifically, is that it, the only thing with video is that I can't touch you and I can't smell you. Everything else is there. Your whole personality, everything. And we were able to fall in love with people over video in ways that, our hearts just kind of swell. And I'm like, it's the most incredible thing to know that we are able to communicate in so many different ways, and to use our voice and to tell our story, and to know that, you have a story that people will fall in love with, that should be shared, and just to be you. And if you be you and you're genuine and authentic, and you share that voice of it's really a culmination of like all of these things that happened, and so many things that I never expected were happen, and taking the leap, and just trusting yourself, and taking risk, and getting uncomfortable, but being comfortable, getting uncomfortable, and knowing that you grow and you learn every time that you do that. And so it's just been such the most incredible experience. And by the way, like that trip that I took, I was so sick when I went to Dallas. And I wound up talking to a few folks just on the phone that were LinkedIn fam of mine. And, this is the beauty about relationships. You meet one person and they answer, like I met you through Wendy, and then we get introduced to other people, and that had happened to me, and I wound up talking to a new friend named Denise that I had been introduced by my friend Mary Alice, who had been introduced by my friend Toph in Australia. And Denise happens to be a writer, but that's not why we got introduced. It was because she had dealt with stuff as a kid too, and dealt with some disabilities. And my friend Mary Alice said, well, gosh, I just think you two would hit it off. And we went up talking for like an hour and a half. And towards the end of that, she says, well, hey, I've got this deadline. I'd love to ask you some questions. I'm like, oh, okay. And we went up talking a little bit, and she said, well, how do you want me to kind of, present you? And I just said, okay, well, Brian Schulman, founder and CEO of Voice Your Vibe. And I'm at the launch party that night talking to a number of founders that are there, and I get this text from Denise, and there's a link in there. It's just a link. And I didn't recognize the number off the bat, and I clicked on it, and I realized it was Denise's article that she wrote on Forbes, which featured me. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I met a friend through a friend, and we had this great conversation, and it was great because it was about disabilities, and it was about the workplace and being different, and so many great things. It was really a phenomenal article that she wrote. But all of these things happened because I found a voice, and I used my voice to meet amazing people and to build amazing relationships and to show up in ways I hadn't shown up before, and to share and to give and to just help people. And it's been the most amazing growing experience that I've had. And it truly is incredible. It truly is incredible. So I love helping people. And the video thing, it's so strange too, Sarah, because I never thought it would be something that I would do, let alone be helping other people. I coach people every day and helping them find their voice and understand that everyone has a story and a voice that matters, and help them understand how they can create their own personal brand. And it's all about just being them and sharing their stories and knowing that people will fall in love with them, and that their tribes are out there waiting for them. You just have to find your voice and voice your vibe, and your vibe will attract your tribe. And I love seeing people get out of their own comfort zone and their shell, because look, getting on video isn't just a thing. Some people are like, what's the big deal? It's just video. No, it's not. It's the first time you've done anything that you're terrified to do. You want to start a company. You want to be a singer. You're afraid to get on stage.
You have to take the first step.
Yeah, it's the first step in anything, right? It's terrifying. But once you take that first step, you're like, wow, what was I so scared of? I want to do it again.
It's funny. Just the other day, I was getting ready for a performance. I was singing on New Year's Eve with a jazz quintet, and I was really excited. I was talking to a couple people at a store, and I said, oh yeah, I'm going to be singing tomorrow night. And they said, oh, that's really exciting. Are you nervous? I said, yeah, of course I'm nervous. Well, how long have you been doing this? Most of my life.
Right.
They're like, well, why do you do it if you're still nervous? I said, because I love it. I love it. I love being able to connect with an audience, and it's meaningful to me, and I'm expressing myself. So I'm going to do it anyway. And I remember distinctly trying to figure out why am I still doing this if it makes me so nervous to get up there on stage? And that's exactly it. It really is all about taking the first step. Stepping out and doing something that you wouldn't normally do and having some success in it. And I'm just going to go back to when I said there were 3 things that popped into my head. The last thing was how we define success, because what you said was just getting up again and dusting yourself off after a failure or after a perceived failure, which I think is a totally different thing, because we perceive failure where others may not see it as a failure. And I think it's just so important to redefine success for ourselves almost every day. what does success look like today? What does success look like over the next week? Where do I want to see my success? Does it have to be related to my income? Does it have to be related to spending time with people I love? Should it be related to my relationships? And so I just wanted to bring that back in, because success has to be redefined and reassessed often. Because if we're only looking at some other person's version of success over the course of the long term, then you're missing the daily opportunities for learning and love and how you can define success.
Absolutely.
So it was just really important for me to stick that in there.
It's such a good point, Sarah. It's such a good point. And look, you never lose. You either win or you learn, and you always learn. So you're always winning. Success is, to your point, it's everybody's definition of success is different. I don't, everything I'm involved in, business, all that stuff, like that stuff, yeah, it's great. I love it, but that's not what defines who I am. And that is not, to me, I'm a good husband. I'm a good father. I'm a good human being. I'm able to help people. I make people feel good about themselves. If I'm able to inspire someone, that's incredible, because to be able to impact another human being's life in a positive way is an incredible gift that we are all given. That stuff means more to me than anything. And I think you're so right. You've got to redefine that every single day, and know that you are you. You are not somebody else. You're your own incredible, wonderful, beautiful, loving, successful human being. And there's only one you. I always say you are the only you. You have your own unique smile, your own unique laugh, your own unique voice. Own that, and use it, because you have a way to share that with people that will help others in ways that you never possibly could have imagined. So
I think sometimes people forget that that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah,
helping people.
I know. Well, it's easy to get lost in all that. It's easy to get lost in, gosh, we could spend a whole nother conversation talking about that stuff, especially when it comes to business, where companies are too busy focusing on the next quarter, the next acquisition, the next merger, the next everything, right? Versus it's people, because the reality is, without your people, you have none of it. Nothing exists. None of it works without the people. And it's the people coming together that makes things so amazing. That's how ideas happen. That's how beautiful things get created. So it's just, gosh, it's so important. Yes, it's all about helping people. Yeah, we all need to make money to survive in the world. Yes, but the root of it all is all about helping people. And if you remember that it's all about helping people, caring about people, and helping them succeed in whatever form or fashion it is. But truly,
the reality is that as humans, we are designed to have relationships with other humans. That's how we're built.
Yes, we are.
Our relationships are the key to our happiness.
That's right.
So that's all there is to it. I mean, it's a very simple equation. The strength and value of your relationships are going to define whether you're going to be happy. And I think the more people focus on the fact that their relationships matter with every human being that they come into contact with, then you can say, how am I helping? Because that's how you build a relationship, is you help each other. And even when it's somebody that is a taker and you have to separate yourself and you have to set a boundary, even setting a boundary may be helping that person in the future, giving them an opportunity to learn something. And then it's up to them. I mean, there's nothing you can do beyond that, but it just all comes back down to relationships, which is where we started with this conversation, is about connecting authentically and building relationships and putting people together that need to meet. And so I'm just so grateful that you took the time to visit with me today, Brian. This was a great conversation.
Sarah, it was so wonderful. I remember when you were putting No Longer Virtual together and all of the things that were happening with all of that. And I loved the the idea, it's so important, it's important to take it from online to offline. The most incredible things happen, it's great to start relationships there. And when you do come together, and I will say, by the way, like, especially with a platform coming from LinkedIn, you build the most incredible relationships together. Like, I have another family, and it's amazing when you are able to get together with folks. It's like nothing has happened since you talked last. It's you're immediately hugs, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And
it really is.
It's so amazing.
I describe it as it's less like a conference and more like a reunion, but without the obligation and awkwardness.
Right.
And I can tell you that the last 2 years of No Longer Virtual have been exactly that. And people immediately walk in and hug if they're huggers. And it seems like there's a sensitivity about that if you're not a hugger, people seem to sort of understand that. And by the time we leave, not only did I get so much out of the content, and I was hosting, so the fact that I could get so much out of the content while I was hosting is pretty amazing. But it's also a testament to the fact that there's so much comfort in that room to be able to ask questions, to be able to connect with people that you can learn from. And then the other aspect of that is being able to bring something to it. The expectation is that everyone in that room has something to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said before, you learn more by learning about yourself, and then by teaching or by sharing those stories with other people. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'm really excited. And Lila Smith is one of our facilitators this year. And 6 weeks,
Yes.
6 weeks from Wednesday, we'll be convening in Atlanta at the Intercontinental. And I couldn't be more excited about it. And it's the
awesome.
hugs. It's the hugs
Yes.
and handshakes and just meeting people face to face. It just takes everything to a whole different level.
It really does. It really does. And I'm so glad. And I remember when Lila told me she was going to be a part of it. That's awesome. She definitely does say things better. No pun intended. Pun intended. And she's a great hugger. And so I know it's going to be fantastic. And I'm super excited for you and the journey. And I'm so glad we were able to get together today. And I'm sending you a huge virtual hug because I am a hugger.
Thank you. Me too.
And it was so great to meet your pup as well, who decided to join us midstream.
He's asleep on the floor now, right in front of my feet. He's so cute. I'm totally addicted, and I didn't even want another dog. So
that's what happens, right? So again, thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor, and I'm so humbled and blessed, and just to know you and love you and all you do to help other people. And by the way, I mean, I'd be remiss to not say, if there is anybody out there that is looking to kind of find their voice on LinkedIn and try and attract their tribe, and for whatever purpose, if it's personal branding, if it's business, whatever it is, if you need help, I'm here to help. It's one of the many things that I do when it comes to Voice Your Vibe. I've set 20 hours a week aside specifically just for coaching. It's limited based on all the things that I have going on, but I want to help as many people as I can to find their voice and voice their vibe and attract their tribe. So
and
always,
for our listeners, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
For our listeners, there will be links to Brian's information, contact information, on the blog post associated with this podcast. So you'll be able to reach out to him. Thank you, Brian. And I'm sure we will talk again very soon.
It sounds great, Sarah. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, take care.
Thank you for listening to Your Stories Don't Define You, How You Share Them Will. Please visit my website for more podcast episodes, blog posts, and information about how I can help you develop and share your stories at elkinsconsulting.com. How could you tell me